In December 1872, a ship was found drifting in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Her sails were up. She was still sailing. Below deck there was food, water, and the crew's belongings all in place. There was just one thing missing: every single person aboard. 10 people had vanished from a perfectly good ship in the middle of the ocean, and not one of them was ever seen again. The ship was the Mary Celeste, an American merchant brigantine. She was sturdy, unremarkable, and built to haul cargo across oceans. In late 1872, she was about to make a routine crossing that would turn her into the most famous mystery in maritime history. On November 7, 1872, she left New York Harbor bound for Genoa, Italy. In her hold were 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol. It was a normal job, on a normal route, with an experienced crew. Nothing about it should have been remarkable. On board were 10 people: the captain, Benjamin Briggs, his wife, Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, and a crew of 7 experienced sailors, a family and their men setting out across the sea together. And Captain Briggs was no amateur. He was a deeply experienced, well-respected religious man, known for being careful and sober. This was not a captain who would panic, and not a crew who would abandon a sound ship without a very good reason. Almost a month later, on December 4, 1872, another ship called the Dei Gratia was crossing the same waters, about 400 miles east of the Azores. Her crew spotted a ship in the distance, moving strangely. The way she was sailing was wrong. She drifted with the wind, her sails set oddly, no one correcting her course. The Dei Gratia's captain, David Morehouse, watched for hours and signaled. There was no response at all. Concerned, Morehouse sent a small boarding party across to investigate. They climbed aboard the Mary Celeste, expecting to find someone, anyone. Instead, they found silence. There was not a single living soul on board. No captain, no crew, no family. The wheel was untended. The ship was sailing herself across the Atlantic, with absolutely no one steering her. And here's the first strange part. The ship was fine. She was seaworthy and afloat. Most of her sails were set. There was no fire, no major damage, nothing that should have forced anyone to leave. Below deck, it got stranger. There was roughly 6 months of food and fresh water still on board. The crew's personal belongings, their clothing, even valuables, were left behind. People fleeing for their lives don't usually leave everything they own. But one thing was missing. The ship's single lifeboat, the yawl, was gone. And that detail changes everything. It means the people of the Mary Celeste didn't simply disappear. They left, deliberately. They climbed into that small boat and rowed away from a perfectly good ship into the open ocean. The ship's logbook gave one clue. The final entry was dated about 10 days before she was discovered. Yet the ship was found hundreds of miles beyond that last recorded position, still sailing on alone, long after her people were gone. The boarding party noted small clues. There was some water sloshing in the hold, though not enough to sink her. A sounding rod, used to measure water, lay on the deck. The compass was damaged, and of the 1,701 barrels of alcohol, 9 were found empty. Tiny details, and none of them an answer. What they did not find mattered just as much. There was no blood, no sign of a fight, no damage from a struggle, no evidence of violence at all. Whatever made 10 people abandon ship, it does not look like anyone forced them. The Mary Celeste was sailed to Gibraltar, where authorities held a salvage inquiry. The investigator, Frederick Solly Flood, was deeply suspicious. He suspected foul play, murder, mutiny, maybe an insurance fraud scheme, but he could prove none of it. There was no body, no weapon, no motive, and no evidence that anyone had been killed or that any fraud had taken place. In the end, the salvagers were paid, and the case was left officially unexplained. Then something happened that buried the truth even deeper. In 1884, a young writer named Arthur Conan Doyle published a short story inspired by the ship. It was fiction, but it invented vivid details, like half-eaten warm meals still on the table, that people repeated for over a century as if they were fact. Much of what you may have heard about the Mary Celeste was never real. So strip away the myths, and you're left with the real, harder question. What could make an experienced captain and crew abandon a sound, floating ship in the middle of the ocean? For 150 years, the true answer has been a mystery. But there are theories. The leading theory is the alcohol. 9 barrels had leaked. In the cold hold, that could have released a cloud of explosive vapor, or even caused a small, harmless flash of flame. To a captain carrying his family over 1,700 barrels of the stuff, the fear of being blown apart could have been overwhelming. So the theory goes, Briggs ordered everyone into the yawl to wait at a safe distance, keeping the small boat tied to the ship by a single rope. Then the wind picked up. The rope snapped, and the Mary Celeste sailed away, faster than they could row, leaving 10 people stranded in a tiny boat on the open Atlantic. Other theories blame the sea itself. A sudden waterspout, or an undersea quake, could have terrified the crew into thinking the ship was about to go down. Panic, not logic, may have driven them off. Another points to the ship's pumps. With cargo blocking them and a faulty reading, Briggs may have wrongly believed the ship was rapidly flooding and sinking. A deadly miscalculation that sent everyone into the boat for nothing. What almost certainly did not happen is the exciting version. Pirates and mutiny are very unlikely. Pirates would have taken the cargo and the valuables, and they were all still there. Whatever happened here was driven by fear, not greed. But every theory ends at the same wall. Whatever sent them into that little boat, the people of the Mary Celeste were never found. No bodies, no wreckage of the yawl, no survivors. 10 human beings simply erased from the sea. The ship herself sailed on for another 13 years under new owners. Her story finally ended in 1885, when a captain deliberately wrecked her on a reef in a clumsy insurance fraud. Even her death was a lie. But the fate of the 10 souls she lost in 1872 has never, ever been solved. That's what makes the Mary Celeste haunting. She gave us the ship, the cargo, the food, the logbook, every clue but one. She told us everything except where her people went. And the ocean has kept that secret for 150 years. It happened. You just weren't told. If you want the true stories the history books leave unfinished, subscribe. There's a new one tomorrow.